You thought there wouldn't be any retaliation? Welcome back to Fog Entertainment, and it's a brand new series. It is Par Book 4 Force Par. Oh, yeah, it's another spin off of Par, and you know what? This is the one I've been looking forward to. This is probably the reason I even got into Par. I went, you know what? I hear a lot of hype about Par Book Force. Tommy Flanagan's in that. Then I had to realise, I have to get through Par. But Par was good. Par was great in parts. The other spin-off, Ghost, is good as well. But this one is probably the real reason why I got into it. And we've got Tommy Flanagan, and I was like, he's in the opening credits. This guy must play a big role. And not only is a big role, he is essentially the leader of the Flynn family in Chicago. And I'm excited for this bad boy now. I don't know for sure, but when the Mayans was on, I might have seen the odd wee spoiler about this guy's potential death. So fingers crossed he doesn't die when I think he does, which is during season 2, episode 4. Maybe I read that wrong, but I don't want any spoilers on it, guys. But this is a short fuse and a long memory. And this episode kicks off with Tommy in his car. He's getting all these flashbacks about his last memories in New York. He then speeds up as he thinks about Ghost. He almost crashes, but then we see a sign, Chicago left. And that's exactly where he heads. And I really do like the intro to this show. It's a really good intro. It made it very different from Power Book 2. And that's where I kind of want to just take a wee step back and talk about this. So I did leave a comment to Young Ats. Shout out to Young Ats and the other guy who have been commenting about Power. And right, so maybe it'll be explained. It doesn't really matter, right? But my point is Power Book 4 set straight after the original Power ended? Because we got that standalone Tommy episode and he's heading out of the city. He's going to California, to which my knowledge is. Is this season going to end with him going back to New York to then appear in the Ghost spin-off? Because a lot of time had passed in Ghost for him just to randomly appear in episode 10. So what I'm going to assume happens is that he reappears in Ghost in the finale of this season 1. Or is it a simple case of this is after Ghost season 1 and after, he supposedly faked his death and confronted Tyreek at Ghost's gravestone? It doesn't really matter, but I would just like to know what sort of timeline we're on, whether or not I know I'm up to date. Because, obviously with both of them taking place at the same time, there's already been quite a few crossovers already between all the spin-offs and the original show. So I'd just like to know, is this, in layman's terms, is this Tommy show episode 1 after Ghost season 1 finale or after the OG Par finale? Leave it in the comments down below. But yeah, like I said, great wee intro to the show. Really enjoyed that. He's in Chicago, and I tell you what, Chicago looks absolutely Baltic. There is snow everywhere. It looks absolutely freezing. He arrives at this front porch of this house. He then gets told by the guy to move. He whips out a knife and then kind of gets into a wee bit of a skirmish. He whips out his gun. He's like, you know what, I could easily shoot you. And then he finds out for this guy that the woman that used to live in that house is in a care home. She's not dead. So yeah, Tommy, paying a wee stop here in Chicago. Turns out he wants to see his grandma. I was like, what significance is this going to have? We'll find it. He goes into the old people's home, but he can't find her. We then come back into... I say he can't find her. He does see her, but he doesn't want to speak to her. So he leaves it for another day. It was quite sad. She basically didn't recognise him. Then we cut to prison. We've got this barber. He was the former leader of the QIB, I believe, something like that. I'll get to know the gang of names. Or is it Boston? The MIB? Something. But yeah, he's just finished his 15-year stretch and he manages to get out. Fab Dabby Dozy, great for him, but it looks like inside, that guy's good in that player. Tommy then arrives at this bar, he gets a drink, chatting up this woman. Was like, what significance is she going to have here? I'm not too sure. But then the guy's getting out of jail, gets took out of prison. He's his first day out. His brother picks him up. He's wearing a Chicago Bulls jacket. So 6-time NBA champion. Looked pretty cool. But he walks out without his Jordans, and his brother's like, yo, what the fuck? Why do you not have any shoes on? He's like, yeah, man, I let them keep it. But yeah, these guys look like they could be big players going forward. Then I remember I seen this clip up next of Tommy on a Facebook kind of the random videos that they show you, and essentially what this is Flynn's son confronting him here, and he gets told to move his car essentially, but he kind of speaks back to him and it doesn't end too well. And then You know, the guy's burying him thinking he's from Boston. He's like, fuck Larry Bird and fuck Tom Brady, which is kind of funny. But he also said, what the fuck is it with the city and parking laws, which it was kind of funny. And then we get the introduction of Flynn. I believe it's Walter Flynn. Great seeing Tommy Flanagan here. Looks a proper fucking badass. And it's just good seeing some Scottish representation on these TV shows. But he just looks the part. The accent just puts him apart from the others. His daughter's sitting in his seat. He kind of like scolds her for doing that. Sits down. He's like, your brother's out in the street doing what has to be done. She's like, well, I might want to help in the street. And she had a weird fucking accent, right? I'm going to assume that her and her brother grew up in Chicago, right, in America, so therefore they wouldn't really have like a Scottish accent. But it's funny. She keeps calling him Da, but it just sounds like a funny attempt at like Da. You know, it does. Your da, my da, Walter Flynn, Scooby Doo. What's going on there, pal? But aye, so this was good seeing Tommy Flanagan. He then like grabs her hands and he's like, "What the fuck are you going to do with these in the street, you wee fanny?" And it's like, this guy's got potentially go to the ferry top. He's not going to surpass Chibs, but hey, what a fucking job he'll do. Really like this introduction scene with him. Laid the ground route, and he's basically saying like, you're going to do fuck all with these hands, man. Absolutely nothing. Tommy then goes back into the bar he was at. He hears the guy chatting shit. He's snorting coke, and then he beats him. He's like, I'm okay with the Tom Brady shit, but the Larry Bird? Nah, I ain't fucking taking that. And he snaps his wrist, beats him up. Then the woman comes out, oh, this could be a problem. He's like, what for you? He's like, nah, not for me. And he's like, come on, your soup's ready. And then they bow, learns for this woman that she's essentially, her ex-husband was in the army and he died sadly, and he's like, yeah, the good ones always seem to die. Then Walter Flynn's daughter, I will remember her name, has sex with this like other woman in her penthouse. Here, you know what? Power Book 2 had some gay sex. This has got lesbian. I know what one I prefer, but Jesus Christ, the one she took home is built like a toothpick, man. You feel like if you did anything to her, she would snap clean in two, like, which is quite extreme, quite brutal. But it looks like Tommy's he keeps getting text message throughout this episode about going to California, but you know, he's kind of like turning it down. He then confronts Walter's son, and he's like, Timmy, do you connect? So they go do the connect, and then it turns out that he's kind of pally-pally, this guy, with the brother of the releasee from prison earlier on this episode, so that was kind of cool. And this is like all amateur hour for these guys. Tommy really, you know, it was a man among boys here. He knew exactly what he was doing. It was a really funny scene. They kill these two guys, and he's like, Jesus Christ, you don't even know how many bullets are left in your clip. Tommy kills them, drops them, brilliant scene. Then they steal the money, he takes the money, and yeah, pretty serious shit here going on. Will Tommy get into this crew? I'm going to assume so. Then the brothers are walking down the street, and he kind of explains to them what happened with the Flynn family and how this new guy showed up. But they're like, wonder who he is. So again, kind of goes back to my point. Tommy was on the run, but either way, he's on the run. It's like when Power ended. It's pretty much when Tasha blamed him for the murder anyway, and then like after Power Book Ghost season 1 finale, they think he's dead. So we'll have to wait and see whatever way that's going to spin about. But either way, you think the police would know who Tommy Egan is, even in Boston or not. But yeah, then he goes to visit his grandma. She's like really happy to see him. Once she realizes who it is, then she goes back to like a depressing state. And this guy follows him. And he's like, this fucking photograph. And it turns out this random guy is actually Tommy's brother. And he's got weird glasses, no hairline, and he's black. So Tommy, the white and the black brother here, this is crazy. The white boy and the black man. Kind of funny here. These two reminisce. They take each other's phone numbers, and he's like, you know what, you don't really want to know Kate. She's a bit of a waster. So that was kind of funny, to say the least. Then this like cop comes in to the barber shop, which the brother has now bought his released brother. He's bought him the barber shop, and the cop confronts him. Nothing really happens here. It kind of just seems like this cop. I say nothing really happens. He just wants them to pay essentially protection money, isn't it? At the end of the day, Tommy then filling up his car. He starts driving. He gets a phone-faced California Connect, but then he hangs up because Walter Flynn's crew's here, and they take him to Walter Flynn's mansion. To which Tommy and Walter have a wee meeting. Tommy Flanagan basically puts out that I've had to put out quite a lot of your fires, wee man. But no worries, I appreciate a good boy. And then his son arrives and he's like, he was helping you, wasn't he, big man? Then he puts the money full of cash to his son. He's like, on your fucking way, big man. Get out of fucking Boston. And then Tommy doesn't leave Boston. He returns. He tells California to go suck one. And he's staying in Boston. How's that going to go? I'm not too sure. But you know what? I really enjoyed this premiere. It's great seeing Tommy Flanagan. I think out of the alive characters that are still alive in the Power universe, I think Tommy is the best character for me and the most iconic. So to see him in his own spin-off is fantastic, and to see someone like Tommy Flanagan going head-to-head with him should be a good season. Really looking forward to it. So I'm going to give this episode a 8 out of 10. Thought it laid the ground running pretty well. Be interested to see how it overlaps with Ghost, if it does go down that route of him going back to New York after it's released about him on the news. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But guys, 8 out of 10. Your thoughts down below, and peace.